Hey guys, now that we have all of our modes set up with each auxiliary switch, we're going to go ahead and set up the Rssi so that it shows up in our OSD, or our on-screen display in our goggles. So I'm going to plug in the battery for the drone, and I'm going to turn on the controller.
Welcome to OpenTX.
And now I am seeing the inputs from the receiver. And if you'll notice right here, this channel, auxiliary 5, is up completely to the maximum. If I move the controller away and cover up the antenna with my hand, then it changes the strength. So that's how we can tell that it's our Rssi, or a signal strength. So what we're going to do right here is just change Rssi channel to auxiliary 5 and go ahead and save that. And we'll refresh it to make sure it kept. And now that will show up in our goggles as our Rssi reading. You can also make sure that it worked by going into setup. And right here, Rssi, it shows you a readout. Again, it's at 100%. But if I move the controller away and cover up the antenna with my hand and move it in different directions, I can see that it changes. So we know it's working. All right, guys, we're going to talk about OSD, or on-screen display. This is essentially any of the information you want to have in your video feed from your drone. It might be tempting. There's a lot of different options you can have. It might be tempting to just select them all, but actually if you have too much stuff in there, it won't be helpful. It'll just be confusing and overwhelming. So we're going to kind of keep it to what stuff that we really want. And a lot of the choices are going to be personal preference. So go ahead and read through these and select the ones that you think will be most helpful for you. I'll do the ones that I prefer. And if you want, you can just copy those. Otherwise, you can select your own and make it personal. You're also able to create multiple profiles by selecting these OSD profiles and selecting the corresponding checkboxes here. But we're just going to go ahead and set up one. Really, in my experience, you'll only ever need one OSD profile. The first one I think is most important is battery average cell voltage. So what that'll do, and notice I select it and it shows up here. And what that'll do is it'll show roughly the average voltage for your cells in your battery. So if you'll remember from our previous videos, a fully charged battery is 4.2 volts. Average or nominal is about 3.8, and it's getting low and it gets close to 3.5. So you'll use this to know that you've got a fully charged battery when you plug it in, and then you'll know when to land. When you get close to like 3.6, you'll want to bring it into a landing depending how far away you are. So what we can do now that we have this on here is we can move it into place wherever we want it. So I'm going to go ahead and put it right over here, so it's pretty close to the center of the screen. The next thing we'll add, I'm going to go ahead and add craft name. That's going to just help me if I'm using DVR or goggle recorded footage. I'll know which drone I was flying at the time. You can also put crosshairs in the center if that helps you. I prefer to fly without crosshairs. You can also fly with an artificial horizon, which will kind of track the horizon and let you know. This would be potentially helpful if you were flying in snowy conditions when you couldn't tell where the ground was. I again prefer to fly without artificial horizon. There's a lot of really awesome options for GPS if you do have a GPS enabled. This drone does not, so we'll go ahead and leave those for now. The next one we're going to use is Rssi value, which again is the signal strength between the drone and the controller. I'll go ahead and put that up right up here in the corner. And then I'm going to use timer 2. Timer 2 will tell me how long the drone has been armed. Timer 1 tells me how long it's been powered on, which can be helpful, but the most helpful thing in my opinion is timer 2 to know how long it's been armed. That'll let you know how your flight statistics were, how long you were armed, how good your batteries are doing as far as timing goes. Another one that might be helpful to use is VTX channel. If you're flying with multiple pilots, you'll want to know what channel you're on so that you're not stepping on any of their footage and causing interference. But I'll go ahead and leave that off for now. Another note to make about organizing this is a 4:3 aspect ratio image right here. If your camera or your goggles are in 16.9 and you put the element way up here, you won't actually be able to see it. You'll power on the drone and you won't be able to see what you added in your OSD. So make sure it's kind of in the center, and then power on your drone. If it's too much in the center and obstructing your field of view, you can go ahead and move it further up. But if you also have put something really far up and you power on your drone and you can't see it, then go ahead and check that. It might just be too far up in the aspect ratio. Another thing that's always enabled default is warnings. And so if we come over here, we'll see all the warnings that you can possibly get. Arming disabled. So if there's something wrong with the drone and it's not letting you arm, it'll tell you that that's doing it. Or if the battery is super low, it's got some warnings for that. If you're in crash flip mode. Another one I'm going to turn on is Rssi. So if your Rssi value gets too low, it'll beep at you and say Rssi value is very low. And that's how you'll know that you're at the limits of your range from your control and drone connection. Then once you've disarmed after a flight, you'll see some statistics from your flight. And these you can be configured here. You can know the defaults are battery current draw maximum and milliamp hour used, so the current that's been drawn from your battery, the voltage minimum, the black box number. Black box is recorded data that you can analyze after. If there was some kind of error, you could send it to experts and they could analyze it, and in some cases find out what went wrong during your flight. RSSI minimum, that's another good thing to know. If you flew 100 feet away and your RSSI minimum got down to 20, then that's definitely your range. If it was up in the 90s, you can definitely go a lot further. Timer 2, this is again how long the drone was armed. Another thing to make sure you do whenever you make changes in here or anywhere in Betaflight is go ahead and save it. Recently, I made a bunch of changes in OSD, disconnected and didn't save it, so I had to come back and make those changes again. That should do it for this video. If you have any other questions about OSD or Betaflight, feel free to let us know and have fun flying.